Time for another coffee with Kilroy. Or I most of the time call beverage and a book. Well, that's when I have a beverage and a book. And I do today. My beverage is coffee. I hope you are enjoying a beverage that suits your taste. And today, the book is The Timechart of Military History, 3000 BC to the present, forward by David G. Chandler. And I've covered this before a little bit. If you think this is familiar, then you might have seen it on my previous piece where I talked about timelines and books that are mainly focused on timelines and time charts. And so I'll put a link to that in the description. But I thought this, given the nature of my channel, which focuses primarily on war games and military history, that this probably warrants its own view, look, page through. I'm not going to do an exhaustive review of this. I'm just really going to kind of page through and talk a little bit about it as I drink some coffee. And I hope you will join me in having a beverage of your choice and spend some time with me as we go through this. So this is the time chart of military history. On the back here, it says the history of warfare from spears to space, A to Z of battles, the time chart of world's wars, the world's major wars, great battles, bibliography, and museum and places of interest. So this is predominantly a chart, a time chart, and we'll talk about that. And it kind of goes from the beginning of, 3000 BC to space, or to present day, I should say. But it also has more than that. It has some separate charts that cover major wars. It has some pages that are just covering major battles. And then again, there's a part in the back that talks about museums. So there's more to this book than meets the eye. And but it at its heart, it is a time chart or a timeline type book, and it's doing it in a very visual way. It's kind of doing it in a linear path of military history. So let's get in here and take a look here. There is, of course, a lot of background and text as we get in here. There's that foreword by David Chandler. Here's how to use this book. This is a little interesting thing here. Is designed to enable the reader to discover the relationship between individual wars and battles, presenting overall context of the conflicts and their relative positions in time and space to one another. So that's kind of cool there. And say you have these time charts. You're going to have these A to Z battles. You're going to have a chronology, battle maps. Yeah, there's even, I forgot, there's some battle maps in here as well. So I find that really kind of cool as well. So there, again, there's a lot in this book. If you're a fan or a student or appreciate military history, then this might be something you might want to take a look at. This is the foreword from David Chandler. And this right here, this pictogram, I can't remember what these are actually called here, is one of my favorites. Because it's such a, I'm a very visual person and really like graphic representations. And this is amazing because not only does it show you time, it also shows you the amount of casualties as well. And so this is Napoleon's advance into Russia and his retreat from Russia. Let's go a little bit closer to that. And I might do a picture at the end so everybody can see that. But as you can see here, this is the amount of forces. By the width of this, you can see the amount of forces he left with, and kind of there's some little turnoffs and stuff, or breakout of some forces. But this is the forces that went into Russia, and then this is the retreat. The black line is the retreat out of Russia, and as you can see here, I mean, it dwindled down, and you just got a trickle coming back. So this is amazing because this shows the time and the amount or measurement of casualties just in just one quick visual graph. I love that. So anyway, and so that's part of what this book is about, is not necessarily showing all these kind of graphs, but showing it as time as a linear, but where other things fall, other battles, other wars, And there's sections in here on each great commander from each of the different areas as well. There's a whole front section here about the weapons of warfare, or warfare and weapons, and so it's kind of tracing that history. And there's some books I've covered. I'll put a link to those too that kind of cover that as well. I'm really fascinated by the advancement of technology, or how technology has changed warfare, and how warfare has changed technology, right? By needs and utilization. There's fortifications and artillery, small arms, armored fighting vehicles, warships, and naval air power. Then we get into the chime chart here. This is kind of your little key, so to speak, as you get into these. So here are the different time charts. And again, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on any one of these, but as you can see here, we're starting at 3000 BC, as you can see at the top here. And so this is your time along the top. So this goes to 530 BC. But you're seeing major periods here. You're seeing the Sumer, the Assyrian or Old Assyrian, Mitanni, Assyrian, Neo-Assyrian. I mean, you're seeing all these major kingdoms. Here's the Hittites, Babylon. But you're also seeing major events. You're seeing some wars or battles or even leaders of major events in here. And then, of course, we have China down below here, and the Harappian dynasty, and all this, and India going over here. So this is just a great way of presenting this, and you can kind of look and see what's going on at any particular time and see where that relates in time to other things. You also have this little flip. Each one of these sections have like this little flip out. So these are great commanders from this period. So, you got Cyrus the Great, of course, Darius or Darius. You've got all the Nebuchadnezzar. You've got some great heroes, or commanders, I should say, from this time period. Sargon II, and the like. So I find this, as I said, there's a lot of neat little tidbits in this book and the way they present it. So continuing on the timeline as it goes over, and then this is going to have a great commander fold out. Now we're up to Alexander the Great, and Julius Caesar over here. So getting into some of the big boys. And over here we have Attila the Hun, Belisarius, and stuff like that. And so but you get this full timeline of what's going on here. So this is the Roman Empire. And I'll put a link to my other, I'll put a link to my timelines in general. I have a whole playlist on that, but there's a timeline chart that's just about history. It's not focused on military history, but it kind of does some of the same thing. You can see the breadth of it, or the width of it, is kind of consistent with what was the prominence of it at the time. So they're kind of doing not only the time as it moves forward, but also the influence or the greatness of those different empires. And again, that's back to that kind of that pictogram we saw at the beginning as well. Here we're up to the Holy Roman Empire up here, and some great commanders over here. Charlemagne, as we're getting into this time period here. And then, of course, down below we have Asia, which is India, and then the Tang Dynasty, which is kind of the highlight of, culturally considered the highlight of the Chinese Empire. In fact, was borrowed from the Korean and Japanese civilizations because of its prominence. Now we're into a lot more going on here now. You just don't have like the Roman Empire. You got the Byzantine, but you just have one big empire going through. You got some major other kingdoms and empires moving on here. And then we got another fold out of great commanders here. You got Charles V, Edward I, Edward III, Robert the Bruce for Scotland fans. Then we're getting into the Americas up here a little bit. And some great commanders over here. Robert Blake, Oliver Cromwell, Fairfax. So continuing on. Now we're into the 1700s. Yeah, we're getting 1770. So we're getting into George Washington over here, getting into the real Americas, or more modern Americas. We have John Churchill, or the Duke of Marlborough, Frederick the Great, And we're not listening out Washington just yet there. Now we're getting into the 1800s, so we're going to get into the American Civil War, but that wasn't the only thing going on during this time period. As you can see what was happening during the American Civil War. All these other things were going on as well. And some of the commanders here, of course, is Grant and Stonewall Jackson, Robert E. Lee, and Moltke, and Napoleon Bonaparte. So he gets a little bit of longer blurb there. I think we all know who that guy is. And so now we're into the industrial age here and all the stuff going on here. And you're also going to see some on these charts, like the development of certain military equipment, like tanks during World War I and helicopters and jet fighters and the like. Then there's a whole section here just about great commanders. There's little blurbs, and they're done by period, and there's like little blurbs on some of the great commanders, a little bit more than what was in those other sections, or maybe stuff that is not contained in those other sections. Then this is that A to Z of great battles. Actually, I got a tab here because I was looking something up, but this is not all the battles of time, but what they're considering the great battles. And so it gives you just a little bit of an index. It gives you what time frame is and just a brief description of it. Here's some great naval battles. And then here's a chronology. So if you don't want to see it in a visual chart, you're more used to reading it as more of a table or timetable, then it's just a straight out chronology of the time and then what's going on during that period. So quite a large chronology there, as you can see. And then we have stuff like during the 1700s here. Then we have it's further broken down into like what area. Like this is Britain, this is Russia. What was going on significantly for those countries during that period. It's kind of interesting. So the chronology is really relatively long. Then we actually have some battle maps here, right? So we've got Marathon and Thermopylae and Salamis, and so it's just gonna give you a little bit about it. Who was fighting who, what were the forces, what was the casualties, commanders, and who was the victor, stuff like that. So it gives you a nice quick map, so you know where it's at, and a little bit of detail on those battles. And in some of these, you actually get the setup, like in Hastings, and kind of where the forces were in relation to some of the local terrain. So it's kind of a neat little another added fact here. I mean, this is, again, a timeline, but you're getting some extra. I consider this bonus material, as you can see here. Quite a bit in here. Here's Waterloo, Megiddo from the World War I, and here we have Operation Desert Storm. Or actually, that's Operation Desert Saber right there. That's the Gulf War. And then we have some time periods that for time charts for specific leaders like Alexander the Great and Caesar, and we have a combination of the battle maps and the time chart. So we're overloading your senses here with some of the way that this is portrayed. Then we have like the 100-Year Wars, just a time chart on just the 100 years, the Wars of Japan. So much stuff in here. The Napoleonic Wars here. So you got from 1800. I guess they're not kicking into the French Revolutionary Wars or the First Coalition or Second Coalition. They're getting right into the 1800s up to 1815. So we have Waterloo up here. But you've got some major battles. You've got some who the major commanders or leaders or politicians maybe from that time frame. Here's the Colonial Wars. The American Civil War. So you've got just a kind of an inset on just that if you want to dive deeper into that. The First World War. Of course, the Second World War. And again, we got more into the development of what the technology was during some of this time as well. And then War in the Air. So this is all use of air in warfare, kind of a history of that, which is through a timeline, which is kind of cool. Then we have, this is kind of future stuff and some more of a modern take on what's going on. A lot of acronyms here. Then you have a bibliography. So if you want to read more, you can read more. And then here's some military museums if you want to go take a look at those. Now, I don't know how. I got to look at the copyright on this. This is not ancient, but not modern. So some of these museums might not be around. But anyway, you can always take a look at that. So there you have it. That is the time chart of military history. I thought I'd spend a quick little bit of time with you today because this to me is a kind of a cool book or a cool resource book. It's not going to give you in-depth knowledge on any one thing, but it gives you a nice survey of a lot of different things, and it does it in a very visual and graphic manner that, you know, kind of lends itself to, okay, that's kind of cool. What's that? And kind of eye-popping on some of this stuff. Anyway, that's what I have for you today. Thank you so much for stopping by. Enjoy your coffee or whatever you're drinking. And I hope you have a good one. Take care. Thanks for watching.